What up, Vibers? It's your boy Kai. Welcome to another episode of the Vibe with Kai podcast. Today, we're going to be deep diving into the world of depression and healing, something very, very personal to me, some stuff that I've gone through, and I know a lot of people that are listening have gone through. And I have a very special guest today, Faust Ruggiero. I said it right, right?
You got it. You did.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. He is the author of the award-winning The Fix Yourself Handbook. If there's anybody that knows about this topic, it's this person right here. So I'm excited to dive in. With a career spanning over 4 decades, he has a unique and profound understanding of mental well-being, and we're thrilled to have him here to share his thoughts and his insights. So whether you're here for guidance, solidarity, or just to find some light in your darkness, this episode is definitely for you. So what's going on, man? How are you, False? Thank you so
Hey,
much for
Guy,
joining me today.
it's a pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm looking forward to getting a whole lot of information out and having a good time while we're doing it.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's funny because over the last couple of years, I'm like, the last thing that I want is for people to feel like they're alone, because that's something that I've had to deal with personally. It's funny that so many people have to deal with this every single day, yet we still feel so alone. We still feel alone sometimes. So the goal is to make sure that people understand they're not alone. It's a cliche thing to say, but it's so true. So I want to start with you here. Can you just begin by sharing your journey, where you came from and how it ended up resulting in you writing this book, The Fix Yourself Handbook?
Well, I've been doing this for 40 years. I always
Mhm,
say I was that kid when we were growing up that,
mhm,
everybody came and said, "Hey, can you help me with this kind of thing?" I'm a listener. And
mhm.
some of us, uh, we have an issue with people. Some of us love people, and I'm in that second group. I said I've been doing this for over 40 years. I still counsel people. I still love doing it. So it started with that, and it just kept on blossoming. And 35 years ago, I went to a private practice,
Mhm.
uh, and depression, anxiety, marital things, drug and alcohol, all that kind of PTSD, women's issues, all those
Right.
kind of things were specialty items. So, I'm still doing that. Took a kind of a I don't even call it a retirement, but I cut the caseload down a little bit and I
Sure.
started writing books. Fix Yourself Handbook was the first one. Then
Mhm.
two more after that, we did Fix Your Anxiety Handbook, and the new one is the Fix Your Depression Handbook.
Mhm.
So we're doing a series, and they're doing quite well, and people are really coming around, and they're buying
Yeah.
the book and they're asking a lot of questions.
Which is a good thing, and I'm really curious, you've been doing this for so long, but do you feel that over the past couple of years, since COVID really kind of took over the world, since 2020, do you feel like there's been a shift to people acknowledging it more, or do you feel like there's been a shift into people, just, I guess, understanding depression, and just neurodivergence in general, but specifically depression in this instance?
It was leaning in that direction already,
Mhm.
Kai. And what
Yeah.
happened
Mm,
was when COVID hit, then we were isolated.
mm.
And now alone really was pronounced. You
Yes.
couldn't go anywhere. It's one thing to say, I don't want to go out tonight. It's another one to say, I can't. And then now everything turned inward and we started thinking and when you do that, now you go back and you say, well, it's always been like this, and I've
Mm.
always felt this. And COVID, what it really did was took all the feelings we already had and magnified them. So
Yes.
then not only did it get worse, but when we went back, we said it was always there. And
Mhm.
I didn't know that, or I couldn't define it, and I thought I was me and I was weak and something was wrong with me. And all I was doing is I'm experiencing, neurochemical imbalance.
Yeah.
And I'm not, my brain's not able to do the right things, but there's help and I didn't know it.
Right. And I'm glad you brought up the definition, because that's something that I wanted to ask you about, because I think people sometimes have a general idea of what depression is. But like, it's not too often that we talk this deeply about it, because obviously there is a stigma surrounding a lot of this conversation. For for those that are listening and watching right now, could you just take a second and define what is depression? What does that mean?
When I talk about depression, when I start working with my clients, I want to go physical first. I want to
Mm,
find out what's going on. First of
Mhm.
all, our hormone levels where they need to be, your thyroid, is that okay? But really, what you're talking about is simply a neurotransmitter imbalance where our brain is not getting stimulated the way it should. And it's not just about, if you think about it, and you talk about having depression, it's not just about I feel alone. I feel unmotivated. I can't
Yes.
focus on these things. Anything I try to do, I just don't have it to do that. And not only that, now let me talk about it with someone. I kind of know what I want to say, but I can't get it out.
Mhm.
You know,
Right.
all the things that the brain normally does, it cannot do. Then your
Right.
emotions engage, and you say, okay, I feel horrible about myself. I feel all these things. Then the brain gets in it and it says, I can't
Yeah.
think my way through it. And so now we're trying to use our brain to get through our emotions and try to fix this thing, but it's not going to happen because it starts
Right.
with a physical problem.
Right, right. So there might be somebody that's listening right now, that's listening to you right now, and they just heard this definition, they just heard how you described it, and they're like, "Wait a second, I think I think that's me. I think I might be experiencing something like this." What should people do if they feel like they're starting to I guess acknowledge or realize that this might be something that they need help with? What's the first step? What steps should they take?
You just said it. The first thing is to say, I need help here.
Mm,
Depression doesn't do that. It says, I'm not going to tell anybody this. First of all, I don't
right,
want anyone to know.
right,
But then I don't tell anyone, so I'm alone. First step
right.
is I make that decision. Okay, I got this. I have probably tried 100 different ways to beat this, and
Mhm.
none of them have worked. Here I am. It's getting worse. My first decision is to say, okay, I need to get someone on my side here. I need someone close. Could be a friend or a family member. A counselor is a great option,
Mhm.
but get it out of yourself. You know,
Right.
when I wrote the book, I always call it the life stealer. That's what
Yeah.
I talk about depression as, and I try to get people to understand that this is not who you are; it's what you have, like
Mhm.
any other condition. It's simply something you have. If you had diabetes, you weren't going to say, that's great. That's it. My life's over and I'm weak
Right.
and I can't do anything and I'm not going to tell anyone. No, what
Mhm.
do we, and every other disease and every other condition that hurts us, we go tell everyone, we get help. Depression, we do just the opposite. We say, not going to tell anybody.
Mhm.
And we don't
Mhm.
champion the fact that we're going to do battle with this thing.
Right, right. It's interesting that you say that because I've constantly said over the last year or so, as I have been going through and acknowledging my own, struggles and management, all of that, I realize, man, if we only treated mental health the same way that we treated physical health, like, oh my goodness, because like if I were to break my arm, like, I'm going to acknowledge it. I'm going to immediately go get help. There's no questions asked. I'm just going to immediately go get help, and it's fairly easy even to go get assistance for that. But from a mental health standpoint, which is something that's just as important, if not more important, we just don't. We just treat it so differently. Why is that? Why do you feel that we just treat it differently so much?
Well, you started talking about that in the beginning of the interview. You said, there's that stigma. The
Yeah.
stigma isn't so much public anymore. It's not like, oh my God, you're
Mhm.
going to a psychiatrist or a psychologist or whatever. That's not there. It's the internal stigma. I don't want to have to go through this. With depression, there's work to be done. And and
Yes.
and with people who have depression, doing the laundry is a major chore, just
Mhm.
motivating to get to that point. The other thing about it is trusting another human being to
Mhm.
get into the deep recesses of your mind and the way you feel. And you're not sure about that one,
Right,
because,
right.
can depression and trust aren't best friends. They're just not.
Right. 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 That you wish they were even roommates at some point, but like no.
They're not.
They're not, absolutely. So like it's funny because you were talking earlier about how you there's a whole series of things that you're writing books about and so on. Are you writing those because you feel that they're all in a way connected? Or do you feel as though they're just completely separate? And because I know for me, like depression ADHD, anxiety. I'm a triple threat over here, right? And I feel like that one goes hand in hand, like they're all skipping down the street together sometimes. Are you writing this series of books because you feel it all like a bunch of, these things go together?
I'm so glad you brought that up. One of the chapters in the Fix Your Depression Handbook is about the relationship between anxiety and depression.
Hmm.
People think you have one or the other. If you suffer from depression, you could be depressed and then get anxious, or they could be happening together. And
Right.
you're saying, so you can't, it's so hard to define what you're feeling. ADHD, if I could tell you ADD and ADHD, how many times I have dealt with people with either depression or anxiety, and that third little monster was
Yeah.
in the picture.
Yeah.
Now you can't even focus on what you're trying to
Yeah.
do.
Hmm.
So they're all related, and that's where the reason I'm writing these series this series the way I am is because I want people to understand we got to get the myths out of the way.
Yes.
In my second chapter in the Fix Your Depression Handbook, it's all based on dispelling the myths.
Hmm.
Imagine, right? You have to write. You're teaching people about depression. The first thing you have to do is purge and clear the space so you can put the right information there. Depression, as example, depression is a mental health problem. Not necessary. It's partly, but it's a physical
Hmm.
problem too.
Yeah. Yeah.
It starts there. It's felt in the brain as a mental health problem, but it's physical, and that's why our brains can't figure it out. Or you go to a counselor and they're trying to find out what's your trigger and all these kinds of things. You
Right.
start with the body, so
Right.
you have to dispel all the myths first,
Yeah.
and people are living with depression and all the myths and the
Right.
myths. When people have read that chapter in the book, they call and they contact me and they say the myths were the reason why I didn't get help. Interesting. So,
Hmm.
and I didn't think about that when I wrote the book.
Yeah.
I said, that's not why they're getting help. That's what they said. And I'm getting that across the board now. People are saying,
Right.
just getting, which also again answers your question. Why aren't people getting help? Yeah, it's a stigma, but it's misinformation. And
Hmm.
so I want to go out there and get that, but they're saying it's this. No, it's not this. I have to do this. And we've been wrong.
Right, right. One of the really interesting things about the last couple of years is the rise of social media and the use of the internet. The world has gotten smaller because of this, and people are able to access information, both good and bad, when it comes to this. And you were just talking about misinformation out there. Do you feel that over the last couple of years, that it's gotten better in regards to educating people about those misconceptions, those myths that you were talking about? Or do you feel like there's been a rise of just too much misinformation, like it's gotten worse?
It's both.
Mm,
We're getting a lot more people that are seeking help,
yeah.
but the misinformation is doing as much damage as the help is. And the other thing we're seeing is counselors, because it's more profitable
Hmm.
and easier. They're doing things online.
Hmm.
And, if you talked about counseling yourself, what's the difference between sitting online like you and I are doing or getting into a counselor's office where they can
Right.
see body language, where you can get in there and really, first of all, get out of the depressed place you're living in.
Sure.
You're counseling right from that
Yeah.
point. I don't know, and then, if you need a hug at the end of the session, you get one. All that kind of human touch kind of stuff is
Yeah.
being filtered out of this.
Hmm.
So social media, lots of pressure it puts on
Yeah.
people.
Hmm.
I'm supposed to be that way.
Hmm.
I'm not that way. And how many times have all of us, and I'm sure you've said this too, say, you don't even know that the person you're envying or trying to emulate has anything together. They post how
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm not posting, hey guys, look at me. I'm a horrible guy. And look at the stupid things
Right.
I did today. I'm,
Right.
I'm not doing that.
Right. Right.
I, I put my mask on, I jump in front of the camera and I say, hey, here I am. And
Exactly.
isn't my
It's
world
it's
great?
so funny you say that because I was just interviewing a therapist friend of mine. She's based out of Chicago. Her name is Andrea, and we were just talking about that. And because I get messages all the time from people on social media being like, Kai, you're always smiling, you're always happy, you're always, and I'm like, I'm not. I'm not. I know that I'm a genuine person. So like when I smile on social media or when I'm on my website or a podcast, whatever, I am genuinely me, right? But to your point, there is a mask that it's a very curated thing that I put out there that a lot of people put out there because like we're in a way I'm running a business, right? Like my content creation is my business. That is what I do. So there's a certain curated piece that I put out there. I don't film myself when I'm balled up in my kitchen crying crying because I don't know what's gonna if I'm doing things right in my life or if I made the right choice or if I'm overthinking a conversation I had, like I don't film that. I don't. You see the happy me all the time. So be careful. Be careful by thinking that I'm always happy because I'm not.
And it's such a great point. We put the mask on and it looks great, but the battle behind the scenes,
Mm,
this little uh, depression monster doesn't let go, and so there is a battle there, and you
yeah.
learn how to work with it by all means. And if you're willing, all of us, if we're willing to get out there and just open up and and get help and learn how to deal with all this, it
Yeah.
gets better. But it doesn't go away. I would tell people this all the
Mhm.
time. If you think you're coming here that so that somewhere online, we go like that, and you say, I'm not depressed anymore.
Mhm.
That means that somehow what we did got all your neurotransmitters in a row and they keep on just going in the way
Right.
they're supposed to. The truth of the
Right.
matter is, no one's neurotransmitters are up and the same all the time. It's that with
Mhm.
depression, they go down and they stay down.
Right.
And
Right.
so
Right.
for some people, medicine is a a
Mhm.
lifesaver. Other people won't go in that route, but
Mhm.
you know, the mask is on, and
Yeah.
you're right. You smile, but they don't know what's behind the smile. Social
Absolutely.
media is a culprit, a huge
you
culprit in
you
that.
you got to be very very careful with the stuff because like again I feel like I'm genuine, right? But there's a lot of there's a lot of content creators out there that are not, so I'm like you got to be careful. One of the things that you were talking about just now is in regards to seeking counseling, talking to a therapist, whomever you can talk to. One of the biggest things that I get from people sometimes is either I can't afford it, or my insurance is not helping me, or there's no availability, right? Those are like the some of the three things that I get. What would you say to those people right now that are really struggling right now and they feel like that either they can't afford it or there's no availability or their insurance is making it even more difficult for them? What would you say to them?
And those are the problems that we occur. That's the second part of what you said. Hey, are people more seeking help after the pandemic? Yes, unfortunately, now everyone wanted to get help, and I mean, when I refer people, and I work with some businesses, and they're far enough away from me that we want to get some other counselors involved. Everyone's online and everyone is booked solid.
Hmm.
Um, Insurances, your insurance typically, if you have it, will typically cover something. If you don't, that's a whole different story. But what I tell people is if your insurance doesn't cover it and you really want services, check the county you live in. Check to
Yeah.
see that they're willing, if you can get into some of the county resources.
Right.
There are counselors that work with sliding scales. The
Hmm.
point is, now you're going to have to go out and do some searching to get the right program. And with depression, that's a huge task to ask someone to
Yeah.
do. That's where you have somebody, please get somebody. You guys come in and help me do this. I got to get a counselor.
Right. Right.
And interestingly, if you can't, not that I'm not pushing this as a way to do things, but you get yourself into an emergency room and they're going to get you a counselor.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I
Uh,
take any
Sometimes,
route that you can. Like it
sometimes
doesn't
it's
it
drastic measures you need. Bottom
Yeah.
line is, and I say this to people all the time, you have to
Hmm.
consider yourself as a worthy person. As, hey, I have I'm worthy. I have a right to get this stuff. Why
Right.
can't I go out and get it? If I'm going to exhaust all the traditional routes and they're not going to be there, I'm going to get creative.
Mm.
You know, don't
Hmm.
don't do something drastic and hurt yourself, but find your way into that
Yeah.
emergency room. I'm falling apart. I think I'm going to do
Yeah.
something. You'll get help.
Right. The other side of it that I get a lot is not just from the people that are trying to manage it, but also from friends, family that know somebody that are trying to manage it or maybe struggling with it, whatever it may be. What would you say to the friends and family? How can friends, family support somebody that's dealing with depression?
First order of business in anything you're going to do, if you're going to help someone, I don't care if it's this or building their house or whatever, you got to get the
Yeah,
information.
yeah.
If you're going to help someone, you're going to get as much information on depression as you possibly can. You're going to, it's
Mhm.
all over it on the internet. It's what you and I are doing tonight. Go out and get
Right.
the information. And then because the person you're helping, that person you would hope would say, yeah, you're getting it. I understand. You're
Mhm.
finally getting me, because what's the chief complaint from everyone who has depression? You don't understand. They'll say it
Mhm.
all the time. I
Right.
put this out there, and then you give me some quick snippet. Why don't you try this?
Mhm.
And you want to strangle them, or just
Yeah.
get away from me. I don't want to be around you. You're
Right.
giving me advice. That's the other thing I tell people: don't give them advice.
Yeah.
You're not their counselor. You're not their physician. Uh,
Mhm.
you want to be as knowledgeable as you can, and then help them get to the professionals that are going to be able to help them, and then
Right,
you can
right.
be there as a support person.
Now, I want to talk about you for a minute because I know you've been personally through so much, and you take that experience and you apply it to everything that you do today. That journey for you, what was the point that you knew that you realized I need to go get help? Like what was the point that you're like, this is enough of this. I need to go take care of this right now.
For myself, you mean?
Yeah, for you.
Oh, you get to my age, and there's been so many little markers, but I remember
Mhm.
in the early going, probably I'm going to say before, high school, even younger, probably 12, where I'm saying, I don't want to go to school today.
Mm,
Was there a problem at school? No. What are you feeling? And I had no way to tell them what was going on.
mhm.
I'm getting anxious. I don't feel like I want to do anything. And fortunately, for me, no one ever hit on, let's talk about I'm talking, I was a child in the 60s. You'd
Right.
forget, uh, you know, talking about it. The information wasn't there.
Right.
It just simply wasn't there for us. So, I was fortunate to have just some adults in the neighborhood who, loved working with kids. So we would go
Yeah.
there. In high school, I had a great high school teacher who saw a lot in me, and,
Mhm.
pushed me past some things, saw me doing some of the acting out that we like to do at
Yeah.
that age when we have a
Yeah.
problem and we don't want to deal with it. All right,
Yep.
enough, get over here, and
Yep.
so it was those things
You're talking
that
to the
were
class clown over here. I was 100%
right.
the class clown.
Exactly, and I was doing that, and it was the high school was the time when the Vietnam War was on, so we got
Mhm.
into being advocates for peace and the
Yeah.
whole. So we were doing growing hair, we were doing all the things that the adults at the time didn't want, and he just saw me.
Yeah.
And actually was a journalism teacher, and so here I am writing today. When you
Yeah.
think back, talk about coming full circle, but I was fortunate to have some of those people. Not everybody gets that, you
Mhm.
know.
Mhm.
And the other thing about it, and you can know, as you're a class clown, you're attracting attention, and people are talking to you. So you have a bit of an audience there. They'll listen if you're
Mhm.
willing to take it to the next step.
Right.
Unfortunately, I was,
Mhm.
so
Right.
and that, with all the education and the experience afterward, someone walks into my office now, and I got them in about 5 minutes. I have a real good
Yeah.
idea what I'm dealing with.
Right, right. What is the mind what goes through, because I know what it is for me, but I'm curious what you see on your end. When somebody is diagnosed, when you were diagnosed with depression, what goes through the like your head? What goes through a person's head? Is it kind of like for me, it was kind of like a stages of grief kind of thing. Like I went through these like various stages. At one point I was like angry because once I saw what, like as you mentioned before, once I saw the signs, I'm like, wait, those signs have been here my whole freaking life. Like they're there the whole time. And like I'm talking about anger and sadness, regret, like all these things. Do you find that happening a lot with people, and did it happen with you?
Yeah, it does, but the first step is the disbelief and
Yeah.
then the willingness to say, "Oh no, that's not
Hmm.
me.
Right.
I'm not that." And then we provide examples. I was out
Hmm.
to so and so, we had a blast, and I do this at home, and no, that's not the case. So and then you go through all the other things. You're right. "Ugh, I don't want this.
Hmm.
Why me?" you know
Right.
but then there comes the sense of relief.
Hmm.
Let me get past all this stuff, because they're all defenses, and they're all my unwillingness to deal with it. And you know what? When someone says you have the problem,
Hmm.
that's when you want to jump, run and do it. But then you say, I got a way out of this.
Right.
Somebody said, I'm getting you. Now just listen to me. And then if they're good at what they're doing, they give you the second step, which is just what you said. We're not alone anymore.
Yeah.
We're not
Yeah.
doing this. And like I tell them in the office, this is just between you and I.
Hmm.
Well, they have to go tell anyone else at all. It's
Right.
between you and I. We're going to work this out. And absolutely, you're going to feel better.
Yeah. Yeah. In your experience, how does one's background, like I'm talking like their culture, their upbringing, all that kind of thing, how much does that influence depression? How much of a role does that play into it?
A, a huge role. I mean,
Mhm.
in some cultures, depression and anxiety are more apt to happen.
Mhm.
Physical things are different. Everything. I mean, simple things like blood pressure.
Mhm.
That's a great place to find anxiety. And then socioeconomic, yeah, it can, if you don't have the resources to go do something about
Mhm.
it. In a lot of cultures, it's just accepted,
Mhm.
and you mentioned, as we were talking, your demographic is almost 90% women, because
Yeah.
men say, I'm not
Right.
I'm not admitting to that. I got this, and I
Mhm.
will deal with it. So there's that other component too. So
That's how
yeah,
I
all
was
these
raised. That's how I was
yeah, all of
raised.
us, particularly
Mhm.
males, absolutely.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm Italian, come from an Italian family, and you would
Yeah.
say to your father, "I'm depressed," and he'd say, "Get out, get over
Oh,
it,
yeah.
and get that done."
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely. I grew up playing sports and I played basketball and football and baseball, and there was no vulnerability.
No.
There was none of that. Like from a physical standpoint, from a mental standpoint, like I had to be tough. I had to suck it all in and just like harbor it. And it hurt. It hurt so much. And at the time I didn't know why. I had no idea why. You were talking about how there's like a physical part to it too. I felt like a physical knot in my like body, and I didn't know what it was until I was well into my 30s.
How about that?
And like now I'm like, hold on. Wait, whoa, wait a second. This is it's and it was a bittersweet feeling because part of me was like, okay, I can put a name to this stuff now. I know I can work on managing it. I can work with my therapist, to go through it. And the other part of me was like, damn, if I knew what was happening then, like the stuff that I know now, would my
How
life
about
be any different?
where would my life be? I said all the time, man, I
Mhm.
think I'm conquering the world here.
Oh yeah.
And when you were talking, I was going back to when you were talking about having this whole thing, and we don't talk about it, and other diseases, we go, we do
Mhm.
that. As a takeoff on that, and we'll use your example.
Yeah.
Here's your dad or whoever else saying, "Suck it up, you're an athlete. Get
Mhm.
out there and do all those
Yep.
things." Your interpretation of that is, I am not allowed to
Mhm.
bring this up. I can't say I really feel whatever,
Mhm.
because they're going to say, knock it off.
Yep.
You know, uh,
Yep.
and in my generation, we got the, what are you, a little girl kind of a thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we're not going there. And
Yeah.
as
Mhm.
athlete also, so you don't, seriously. And
Absolutely.
you know, it wasn't going to fly at home. And then what are you going to do? Tell the coach, coach, I really feel,
Right.
oh yeah, great. Well, why don't you,
Mhm.
we don't need you if you're going to play that. So
Right.
you feel not only that that it's hard to get it out, you're not allowed to. And
Mhm.
that brings up the next point is, now I fear what you're going to think about
Mm.
me if I bring this out.
Mhm.
You may nod and say, "Hey, great, yeah, I got you." But bottom line is, people don't want to be around depressed people. That
Mhm.
hasn't changed yet.
Mhm.
You know, I I,
Absolutely.
I did an interview for Fox Television over the Christmas. It was about depression over the Christmas season,
Yeah.
and the person that interviewed me said, "What's the first thing you want to do?" I said, "Don't leave them alone.
Mm.
Holidays,
Yeah.
festivities, fast pace. When you have depression, you are left alone because everyone will say, "You want me to go sit with that person and
Oh,
talk to
yeah.
that person?"
Mhm.
And I mean, I'm on speed here. I mean, I'm
Right.
going, and you want me to do this,
Yeah.
so we
Mhm.
then you fear what the other person's going to say, and even if they don't say anything, your mind says they think this about me,
Mm. Mhm.
whether they think it or not.
Right.
You
And
say,
we probably think something worse than what they're actually thinking
And
most of the
it's
time.
true. It's true. And then we do the real nice thing to ourselves. We start playing these scenes in our head. Here's the
Mhm.
conversation. I'm saying this, they're saying this, and we actually play that conversation in our heads.
Mhm.
And before you know it, what had on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of severity was a 2 is now an 8.
Yep.
And we are beaten before we even take the first step out of the house.
Yep.
And when you talk to someone, you got that thing spinning in your head, and you're protective, and you're putting that mask on, and you get that up
Mhm.
there and you see everything, because I don't want you going any farther than
Yep.
I think arms distance. So, trying to get help for all this thing, we already have it figured out that the end of the world's coming, or at
Oh,
least,
yeah.
what's
Yeah.
going to happen to us is not good.
Exactly. Yep.
And if you don't believe me, here, just check into my conversation, because I'm
Mhm.
telling you, here it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, absolutely. You get to work with a lot of these people every day, and you get to help people. What's the most rewarding part of this for you? Helping
For
all
me,
these
is when a
people.
person checks in. When they say, check in, I mean, they say, "Okay, I'm with you. Let's do this." And
Yeah.
then I start seeing the little steps. and
Mhm.
you know, and they're not saying, "I can't do this," because they're looking way out there to try to get to the finish line where there is no finish line. They've understood, I can do this. I'm going to fight the battle.
Mhm.
And they'll say to me, "And you're going to get calls even when I'm not supposed to be here." And I say, "I welcome that." All my people know that.
Right.
Something goes wrong, you call me. I see the call. If I was with someone or doing, I see the call, I get back to you, because that's so important. That
Right.
there's no judgments. There's no nothing. You get to say
Yeah.
whatever you want to say. But
Yeah.
that's a hard one to get past. It
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah. I really like, honestly, I love speaking to people like you whenever I get the chance, because it's so validating. It's so validating to have these types of conversations. And I'm like, I tell people all the time, like, I don't care how many people watch this, I don't care how many people listen to it. At the end of the day, if one person,
Got it.
one person gets something out of this, then what we're doing right now is so worth it. It's so worth it to me. And like that's all I want. And I really do appreciate your time, because like we're all super busy, and I really do appreciate it. If there's one piece of advice that you can give to people right now that are struggling as we continue to head into we're filming this 8 days into the new year, what would you say to somebody that's trying to kick off 2024 in a positive way? They want to make the changes, but they're not sure how or what to do. What would you say to them right now?
That one last part of that statement, "I'm not sure what to do,"
Hmm.
says it all. I need to go get some help. I
Hmm.
need to get other people in my life, at least someone that I can trust to talk to. I don't want to do this alone. I can't.
Yeah.
I'm a professional who counsels people on this all the time. I know that when that this stuff goes on in my life, I need to be able to express that. I'm
Hmm.
fortunate to have a wife who, we listen back and forth. We thoroughly enjoy 2 hours of conversation. Great,
Yeah.
let's bring on the third. I'm fortunate in that respect. If you don't have something like that, then go find it. If you need to go get a counselor to do that, go do it. Stop believing you're not worth it, because you are. I put it in my books all the time. You are a beautiful person, and there's a ton of wonderful things that you have inside you, and we all want to wrap ourselves all around you. Give us the opportunity. Go out there and let somebody in. Anyone.
Absolutely. I have 2 cats. Does that count? I can
You're
talk to
dead,
my they don't talk back, but, like,
but they do snuggle, right?
oh, all the time. My 2 cats, they're the most snuggly cats of all time. Like, I'm like, I lucked out. I lucked out with my 2 boys over there. What's next? So you have depression. You put out Fix Your Depression Handbook. What's the next one that you're gonna
I
conquer?
did Fix Yourself Handbook first. I went to
Uh-huh.
anxiety because when the pandemic hit, that was the obvious choice. Then it took off.
Mhm.
Depression is something we just published, and I've already started to write the next one, which is the Fix Your Anger Handbook.
Ooh,
That was
I'm gonna have you back for that one.
a logical next step. No doubt
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we just finished the outline, did the first chapter, so I'm looking to have that out probably by mid-year, somewhere in there.
Oh, amazing. I would love to have you back to sit and chat. I mean,
Absolutely.
not just about that, but any of these things, because I know my audience is really going to resonate with all of this. My friends, the Fix Your Depression Handbook, you can get it. I'm going to include links to everything in the description of this podcast. Go check it out. Even if you're not sure if you want to buy it, whatever it may be, I have Faust's website and everything inside the description of this. Go check it out. You might learn a thing or two. I know I did. And it's all worth it. Thank you so much for joining us today. Like
That
like it means a lot.
It's been a pleasure. For those people who are not sure they'd want to buy it, on my website, I have uh, parts of all the three books there. You can go in there and get
Perfect.
and pick out parts of chapters and see, hey, is this something that looks good for me? And there's a
Yeah.
contact link, and I do get back to people. But it has been a
Nice.
pleasure. I think we did some
Yeah.
nice things that are going to help some people out. And
I agree.
thanks so much for having me aboard.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much. For more information and wisdom from this wonderful person right here, be sure to visit his website, which I included in the description here. Grab your copy of the Fix Your Depression Handbook. To all of my vibers out there that are watching and listening, remember, you are not alone on this journey. Every step, even the smallest one, is a move towards a healthier, happier you. Thank you, everybody, for watching and for listening. As always, much love and good vibes, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.